All right, all right. We are back with a special guest. We're in our Belmar studios today for Grit Won't Quit. We have David from SORsoap. How are you today?
I'm good, Tom. How are you?
I am great. So this is a very cool story, and I was so excited when I got connected with David. Shout out to Chris from NY Life who connected us, who's also a guest on here, who's known you for 15, 20 years.
Known him for a long time.
He's a
Chris.
great guy.
Great guy.
He used to make a good cup of coffee down in Manasquan,
He
too.
sure did.
But
he's good at everything.
He's a great connector.
Yep.
He's just a great guy. Like, he's just someone you want to hang out with.
Yep.
Cool dude. So he introduced me to you and said, "Oh, you got to get this guy on the podcast. He would be a great guest because you've had some exciting news. But then since talking to you, I've learned we have more similarities than we ever thought."
We do. We have a lot in common. And Chris is the first thing we had in common. He said the same thing about you. He said, "This is a guy you need to go talk to, Tom." So once we got on the phone, it was like...
It was 25 minutes. Yep. It was fast.
Yep.
So normally I don't talk to the podcast guests before they arrive. We talk for a few minutes. But I do my research on my own. But David had given me a call, and we realized we both went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yep.
And I told you, I think on the phone, like I have a team of 20, and 4 are from Marist.
Love it.
So we have 2 of the older guys and then 2 of the younger gals.
We just missed each other at Marist.
We just missed each other. That would have been funny to catch you there. It sounds like you were quite a party guy.
I had a good time. I played soccer, studied biology for a little bit, and then I switched my major to fine arts up at Marist. So a little bit of an alternative path, but it led me to where I needed to be in life.
So now you leave Marist, and you went to IBM, right?
I was lucky enough to get a contracting job down in Chapel Hill, Research Triangle Park in North Carolina with IBM, and I started my graphic design career down there.
So that's going well.
Yep.
And you're doing your thing, and you're still having fun.
I'm playing rugby for University of North Carolina, so I was definitely getting sore. No. We could talk about that. Maybe we'll leave that up to the. I wasn't a student, but I was on the team. There were some loopholes we took advantage of. Let's just say, and the statute of limitations is up, I believe, on that. So.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Good.
This was back in the '90s.
You thought about this?
I have thought about it a little bit.
I love it.
They can't take away any of the titles we won. All right.
So you've been an athlete your whole life.
Yep. I played
soccer.
soccer.
And I think that's where this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So then you're in North Carolina. Then when did this start to come about?
Well, let's see. I mean, North Carolina for a few years. Started my career down at IBM. Learned a lot about, the corporate world and how to be part of a team. Learned a lot about responsibility. It's kind of, you don't really grow up in college. No. Those couple of years after college is when I started to really grow up a little bit. A couple things happened with my family with some health issues, so I moved back to New Jersey. Got a job at AT&T up in Middletown. I was working for AT&T Labs. I was part of a few really vibrant creative teams that we were building video games and online flash animation games, 1-800-CALL-ATT if you remember back that far. So we were doing some really fun stuff. Again, part of a great creative team led by great managers, a real family feel. A lot of younger employees with some, managers that were in the middle of their career that really looked at us like, their kids. And took care of us and showed us the ropes. And we just actually had a reunion, Tom.
Taught you how to do the right thing.
They taught us how to do the right thing. They taught us how to do our job better. You have a lot of raw talent and ability, but you have to kind of form it and shape it into a corporate career. And that's really where I feel like I grew up, was at the labs in AT&T. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then fast forward a few more years, got married, started a family. And then I started a career with Bank of America, Merrill Lynch at the time, and then Bank of America bought Merrill Lynch during the financial crisis, which was interesting, but it gave our company life support and it gave us a future, and I took full advantage of it. Again, part of a wonderful team, work remotely from home, but still individual contributor, really enjoy my time creating graphics and helping our employees and our customers, digest news and do things on the intranet. That's what we do. It sounds boring, but really it's not. We have a lot of people that consume the content we make, and we have fun doing it. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
So now, when does this come along?
So then, let's see, about 5 years ago, right on the tail end of as the pandemic was kind of winding down, cooling down, all my men's soccer leagues up here in Wall Township and at Capelli and Tinton Falls were canceled because of COVID. So I started to run more. So I'm doing more than the normal 2 or 3 miles a day. I'm doing 5, 6, 7 miles. It's putting different strain on my body.
That's why I don't run. That is the one reason why I do not run. Thank you. Next.
That's why I don't run sometimes either. So my hip flexor started to hurt, Tom.
Uh-huh.
I went to my physical therapist, Dr. Dan Staats, who's now, as you know, my business partner.
Shout out to Dr. Dan.
He started to scrape my hip flexor with a metal tool, shaped very similar to this, a little bit larger, a little thinner, sharper metal, and he's scraping my hip flexor. And it felt great. He's putting emollient on it to make the tool glide. Now, I've known Dr. Dan for a long time. It wasn't uncomfortable for me. I'm not ticklish. I'm not squeamish. It's a clinical situation. He's fixing my hip flexor, and I don't care what it takes. But for some people, they don't like that. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to, they don't want to be in that situation. So I went home the first day from Dr. Dan, and I got in my shower, and I grabbed a bar of Irish Spring, right? Just a normal, brand new bar of green.
Another thing that we could add to our common list.
You
together.
like Irish Spring?
I'm an Irish Spring guy.
I love Irish Spring.
Add it to the list.
Add it to the list. So that curve, on the bottom of the Irish Spring, I took it, and I looked at it. I said, that looks just like the tool Dan was using. So I started to scrape my hip flexor. Felt good. Started to scrape my calves, my quads, all the parts of my body that were sore from running and training and doing and lifting. And it felt great. I thought to myself, well, that's that eureka moment that you have, right? That was the beginning of this whole idea. I tell you, I jumped out of the shower, toweled off real quick, ran into my studio, and I started to sketch logos and ideas and shapes.
And you're a graphic designer by trade, so.
And that's when it was born. And I think I had the name immediately. I was like, well, let's see, it's soap that helps your soreness, SORsoap, and that was it. And
the rest is history.
The rest is recent history, Tom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you start selling it. Now,
a lot happens before we start
all right.
selling
So you start prototyping it.
We start a couple weeks later, I go to Dan and I said, Dan, I have this idea for a company, right? So I started some of the processes of incorporating and trademarking and really seeing if we had an idea. Did a lot of due diligence about patent searches. I thought for sure somebody would have already created this, but lo and behold, it wasn't out there. So I knew we had some runway to work with. That's when I went to Dan. I said, look, man, I got this idea for Graston, quote unquote, Graston soap. And he's like, what do you mean? Instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization soap. Oh, and he gets it immediately. He's like, all right, cool. I'm in. All right. So we went, had a beer, wrote up some contracts, and we're in. Now we got a company. Now,
That's
Dan,
the easy part.
That was the easy part. Dan took the bull by the horns and started to research how to make soap, how to, do cold process soap. He did it all on his own. He's doing it in his laundry room. Crazy process, by the way. Something that I'm not built for. It's percentages and calculations and recipes. It was perfect for him. So I had somebody, a local guy, Brian. He lives in Spring Lake Heights. Awesome guy, super talented. He made me some silicone molds. So now we've got the mold, and we've got Dan making the soap and the goggles and the whole bit.
Oh boy,
he was in 100%. So we popped out the first prototype. It didn't look as pretty as this one, but our proof of concept was done. So we had something there. Now that's like a comma, I guess. Put a comma. We've got a prototype. We don't know if people want it. We don't know if we can make it hard enough. We don't know if we can add the right formula together to make it as analgesic as this one. This has a lot of menthol, chamomile, lavender. This is one of the formulas we make. But it's more than just the shape and the hardness that that helps you mobilize soft tissue. It's the ingredients. It's the menthol. It's the aromatherapy. So it creates an environment in the shower that is truly therapeutic.
Can I feel it?
Yeah, of course. And here's the holder. This is the second thing we invented, just as important as the first. It's a little suction cup holder you stick up in the back of your shower on the tile, and when you're done scraping your muscles with the SORsoap, you hang it up, you allow it to dry, rinse it, hang it up, allow it to dry, and it re-hardens and re-cures for the next use.
Wow,
Yep.
Very cool.
Very, very important little part.
So now you're mixing, you got the goggles, Dan's got the goggles on.
Yep.
And now you have a proof of concept.
Got a proof of concept. Well, we built a website, we built a logo, we built some branding.
That's where you came in handy.
That's where I came in again. While he's doing the soap, I'm thinking of all the other things that we can do. Licensing, in my mind, I've got all this wealth of ideas, right? We had to sift through them and see which was plausible, which was smart, and which wasn't. Because sometimes you can get caught up in chasing all these different ideas and building all these different SKUs, and it dilutes your efficiency. It dilutes your power to really build a company. So I had to rein myself in. I'm a creative guy pretty excitable. I'm pretty optimistic. I think all these things are going to work, right?
Yeah.
I had to kind of put some blinders on, some focus, and really think about the MVP that we have, maybe one or two other formulas that would be beneficial, and those came about later, but really proving the concept, giving them away, right? Giving them away to athletes, giving them away to local athletes, high school athletes, college, professional. I had some connections with the New York Red Bulls, so that's where I started. I got the interest of some of the players back in about, I guess, 2020, 21, and I sent them up a case, and they used it, got some great feedback, got some real feedback, not friends and family feedback, not my own feedback. I'm biased, right? Of course, I love the idea. I know exactly how to use it. I know exactly how to hold it. I know how to store it. We got some real world feedback from these New York Red Bulls, and it was positive. So it gave us hope,
and momentum.
As you know, small business, you might need hope every day. Mm-hmm. You wake up in the morning filled with energy, and by noon it could be sapped, right?
You can have the best day and the worst day all at the same time.
All in the same hour.
All in the same day. Like that's the hard part about being an entrepreneur.
It really is. It's a roller coaster. And little did we know the roller coaster was just starting to go. This was all in the climb. We didn't even realize we didn't get to the top yet. I had some boxes in my head that I wanted to check. One was get a patent, right? 2 was get in Runner's World magazine, which seems very niche, but I thought if we could get in Runner's World magazine, that would be a feather in our cap.
But those people are probably the most loyal.
I think so. The running community, I have learned, is awesome.
Yeah.
Supportive. Supportive, but in a way that they're so competitive against themselves that they'll do anything to get better.
Yeah.
They'll do anything to feel better, run faster. But also they're so welcoming too. I was a runner, and that was the whole genesis of this. But I'm not like a runner. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't go out and run 5Ks and win them or even get a good time. I just enjoy running. Yeah. I like to go out,
your mind.
Put my AirPods in, think about something, listen to a podcast, and go for a run. But they welcomed me. The running community really embraced us.
I can't wait till you listen to our
I will be listening
on that run. You can text me
soon.
that.
How many days? I mean, a couple days, it'll be ready to go. I'll be listening to it on my next run, maybe.
We'll talk about
All right,
it. We'll talk about your release date.
Right. So, where are we then? In the timeline of SOAR, right? Yeah. We're just starting to see real adaptation, right? Large groups of people read that Runner's World review, and it started to sell, right? And that gives you, it's exciting, right? And it's exciting to sell
things. Gives that next fuel right in there.
Yep. So now let me think about the other thing. I wanted to be in retail. Fast forward, there's a spoiler. We're still not in retail. It turns out that retail is a little bit of a different animal for us. We have to figure out some challenges as far as the packaging goes and the design, because if you walk by this in the store, you might not realize that it's a muscle scraping soap. Mm-hmm. You might just think it's soap.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out the design challenge, which is probably next on my list, to figure out the retail packaging so we can be in stores like Target and Whole Foods and Dick's Sporting Goods, which those are other goals of mine. I really want to be in the retail space when it makes sense.
Yep.
So I guess...
And those economics are different.
The economics are different.
Than your direct-to-consumer economics.
Totally.
Your running world economics.
Yep. You're in less of control of the process, and the margins are different. And I think the expectations and the management of the process is a lot harder and a lot more difficult than people realize.
Yeah, because you're not, direct-to-consumer, runner world, a friend of yours that carries it at the store, if there's an issue, you could
go there.
You go there, you fix it, you explain it, you show them. But when you're in Dick's Sporting Goods, it's
a whole different animal. Whole different animal. And from what I've heard... Listen, I've been lucky enough to meet some amazing CEOs, amazing product designers, amazing developers and business owners out there. Some of the bigger brands that you've heard of, definitely. I don't need to mention them all, but they've told me the same thing. Once you get into retail, it's a lot of work because you're managing those relationships. And right now, it's still just Dr. Dan and I.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to spoil the end of the story, but we have one other business partner now. But at this point in the life cycle, it's just Dr. Dan and I. So if we went into retail, could have been rocky.
Plus, you both have full-time jobs.
We'll have full-time jobs, families,
yes,
which is another full-time job. But, you're balancing things. You're balancing both. He's got a thriving practice in Brick, New Jersey. That's another thing that we have in common.
Another thing I lived in Brick for 10 years.
Yep. So Monmouth and Ocean County guys.
Yep. Oh.
I coach soccer around the corner at St. Rose High School, so we've got a lot in common.
And when you said Capelli, I live in Ocean Township, so I live 4 or 5 minutes from the Capelli sports complex.
So we've got a lot in common. So I'm trying not to lose sight of where we are in the timeline. I guess we could skip to the big.
Well, so now you're starting to get into stores. You got into Runner's World. You start making momentum.
Yeah.
Now,
holiday season picks up, right? So we're starting to see year over year growth, right?
Right.
We started out
goal of every business.
First year wasn't great. We gave a lot of soap away, but we weren't expecting to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of soap that first year because there's a learning curve involved with this. Some that we're in control of and some that we're not in control of. Luckily for us, the pandemic shone a light on how important wellness, self-care, and health is, right? We all went through it, whether you're an athlete or not an athlete. The only thing that was important during COVID was, are my kids healthy? Am I healthy? Are my parents healthy? Are my friends healthy? That was all that mattered. So during the pandemic, certain things changed. The way we buy things changed, where we work out, where we recovered. Could we go to the massage therapist? Could we go to the physical therapist? Not always, right? If somebody was sick or if we were worried or scared, we wouldn't even go to the grocery store, some of us. Now, it doesn't matter how you approached it. For me, I was cautious. I was conservative. I had kids, and I didn't want to get sick.
No.
So, anyway.
It's funny that you used to wipe off your groceries with wipes.
I know.
Like when you think back, I think about my garage in Brick. We used to bring them to the garage in Brick, and me and my wife would be taking wipes and
letting them sit for 24 hours. We learned a lot about ourselves, and we learned a lot about, let's just say, others. We learned a lot. We learned a lot through COVID. What we learned through COVID that specifically, relates to this product was that people were invested in their health. People were invested in their self-care, and people were exercising more than they normally, than they did.
They had
maybe
more time.
They had more time, but they wanted to be healthy.
And
right? So not that we took advantage of that, but we recognized it early, and we started to market to that. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal, it's antimicrobial, but it also helps kickstart your recovery in a small way, right? And I think the mindfulness that we had about cleanliness and soap and all that just kind of dovetailed at the right time for us. So it helped to push us along for year 2 and 3, really.
So now 2 and 3 are going, and they're going better, and you're growing, and
year after year, we've been more than doubling every year, which is great. Started slow. Year 2 was better. Year 3 was good. Year 3 was really good. Then year 3, 3.5, TikTok started to really help us. Now, again, I don't want to get off into the weeds with you, but you're a social media guy.
I am.
TikTok shops, TikTok merchant platform. Another thing, mention one of your competitors, Guy Raz, right? He has a podcast about how I built this. Great podcast. He asks his people, right, his guests, which are all entrepreneurs and all founders.
Sure.
How much of your success do you attribute to luck, and how much do you attribute to hard work? That's the question he closes the show with every week, and it makes me think about this because
don't answer because I'll use that question.
Okay, all right, good. We'll use it. I have to say, TikTok was lucky for us.
Yep.
We hit it at the right time. They were pushing small businesses. We were one of the first main businesses that they pushed. They increased our follower count. I mean, they're in control of everything, right? It's their platform. They could do whatever they want. They gave us a lot of viewers. I mean, we had to make good content, but they gave us the push. They gave us the traction. And we started to sell a lot on TikTok. So when we got, all right, well, I don't want to spoil the next question, but that helped us in the next chapter of our business.
So, all right, so now let's get into the next stage of the business. I feel like the people are going to want to know. There's an 800-pound
shark in the corner of the room.
We've been talking about this elephant in the room now. We've been thinking about it for the last 20 minutes. So you get a call or inquiry.
I get an email from somebody who I wasn't sure if it was real, right? We all know, sometimes you get emails, you go, oh, if I click on this.
Especially because from the corporate world, and you know about, you're savvy to this.
Yeah, I'm savvy to it a little bit. It was one of those emails that I scratched my head. I said, I really hope this is real, but I'm not sure.
Yep.
I called my son, he's 18-year-old, called him down. I said, take a look at this. Does this look legitimate to you? And he said, I think so. Let's Google it. So I Googled the name, and sure enough, it was an email from an executive producer from Shark Tank, Tom.
It's awesome.
Which was amazing. Amazing. So for any entrepreneur, any small business founder, this was like the Mount Everest. This was
Pinnacle.
the brass ring, the pinnacle. I thought if we could get on Shark Tank, and I thought about it for the last couple of years,
Yep.
but I thought it was a distant dream or a really slim hope.
So someone reaches out to you, which is even better.
Which was
means,
even cooler,
Like
yeah.
you didn't have to go through the process.
Didn't have to go through the same process. A lot of people, I don't know the exact number, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people try out for the show every year, go through the casting process, and a very small number of them get on the show. I had a unique opportunity with Dr. Dan to take a shorter route to getting on the show, which was really cool. Testament to the product, testament to the company, but also I think, which has become really the cornerstone for my business, Tom, is a testament to treating people well. And this is part of the grit, right, that I have. I live by the golden rule. I really try hard to live by the golden rule. Treat other people the way I want to be treated. Not the way they treat me necessarily, but the way I want to be treated, the way I expect to be treated or hope to be treated. The way this producer got wind of our company was he saw a comment that I made to somebody on TikTok, a very famous ultra runner. His name's Andy. He's amazing. He had an issue with some medical issues, and I suggested another product. I didn't suggest our product. I suggested another company, which this producer from Shark Tank saw it, and he thought to himself, well, that's kind of weird. This founder could have suggested his product. He suggested a different product. Anyway, that was what connected us.
But sometimes that's the right.
That's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. If you're not the right product, there's many times like I'd rather say to someone, use so and so because it's they'll give you the job that you're looking for.
It was 100% the right thing to do. I didn't do it because I thought a producer was watching. I did it because
It was the right thing to
the
do.
guy was cool, and I wanted him to feel better and be able to go out and run his 100-mile. He runs hundreds of miles. Crazy. I couldn't do it, but we've gotten to be friends.
Now you're more on my side of the camp of this.
I'm definitely on your side of the camp. So that's how we got, discovered, I guess, for lack of a better word, for Shark Tank. Now, there's a lot that happens when you are a potential contestant on Shark Tank. Let's just say it was the most exhilarating, thrilling, nerve-wracking 6 months to 8 months of my life.
So now you go and do this. You get the inquiry.
Yep.
Let's kind of lay this out. So you get the inquiry. Your son and you say it's not a scam. We're gonna follow you. So you respond.
The producer called me. We talked for an hour, just like you and I. We had a lot in common. We hit it off.
Did he go to Marist too?
No, but he played rugby at another local school, and we connected over the rugby thing because I played rugby at University of North Carolina. Well, listen, you got to find. You know as well as I. You know better than I do. You built a business out of it. Find those commonalities. Find what makes people feel good, and nurture it. Right? It's like a garden. You can plant all the seeds you want, unless you water it, unless you take care of it and tend to it, and keep your eye on it, and really care about it. It's not going to grow. I'm not a business guy. I don't have an MBA, right? But I do know how to make people happy. I know how to make people feel important. I try my hardest to make people know that I care about them. And that has been the most beneficial part of running this company. We make people feel good in many different ways.
Whether it's good guys out there.
Listen, there's a lot of good people out there. Chris, you, a lot of people.
Chris, you're in the club now.
I think he
He
might have started the club.
I'm not only I'm not only a member. I'm also the president.
Yeah,
all right, Chris K. So now you email. So you guys go start. You got a conversation now. He says to you, you have to audition or you have to come in?
We went through the process.
Mm-hmm.
We got paired up with some amazing people, part of the Shark Tank team. There's things that are trade secrets.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I could say this. The people that work for Shark Tank are amazing.
Okay.
The producers that we got connected with, we wrote scripts. They worked with us to fine-tune the script. So that first 90 seconds that you see when you watch Shark Tank, that's the scripted part. Everything else is a conversation between you and the sharks. It was amazing, Tom. I'm getting like, I don't smile naturally all the time. I have more of a serious face. When I talk about Shark Tank, I smile because it was crazy nerve-wracking, exhilarating, but also I knew that if I could get through this, right? If I could just keep my emotions together, we nailed it. We nailed this, the 90-second script. they edited it down from 45 minutes in the tank to what you see on the show. And Dr. Dan was like Babe Ruth during the show. He knocked it out of the park. They were asking him questions about the numbers, and we had rehearsed a lot. He knew the numbers inside and out.
I saw it.
Yeah, and that's an important part for those sharks, right? I could sit here and be emotional and tell them the story about the brand and how I conceived the idea. And
they want to know. They want to know the numbers. They want to know what they're going to make on this.
Yeah. So Dan knocked it out of the park with the numbers, and you know what? We had a successful showing at Shark Tank. If you've seen it, you know the story. If you haven't seen it, I think there are ways you can go see it on Hulu or stream it.
I was lucky enough that I saw a post that you wrote ahead of this conversation, and I figured, let me go check it out. So I say to my wife recently, I go, oh, one of my podcast guests is going to be on Shark Tank tonight at 10 o'clock. I got to watch it.
Yeah.
And I watched it live. I watched it on replay, but I got to see it, and it was great. And it came right down to the last.
It did.
The last shark.
It did.
So it seemed like Barbara wasn't that interested. I thought that the woman from the that sells
Lori.
Yeah. I thought she would have been more interested.
I did too. I mean, listen.
I was surprised by that one.
I was surprised, but I was so nervous when it was happening that I couldn't. I just had to keep focusing on what was left. Right. I didn't have time to process. All right, Kevin's out. Robert's out because Robert's an athlete. Kevin's an athlete. Lori does QVC. And I thought this would be a smash.
I thought Lori was going to be the first one to take it. Barbara, I could see going no on
Barbara's
that
a good partner. Everything that first of all, let me disclaim this. They're all amazing people. They're all generous. They're gracious. They're wonderful people. They have great characters on TV. But let me tell you, they're all wonderful people. Mm-hmm. Kevin, listen, there was a part of me that thought we could strike a deal with any one of those sharks for different reasons, like you said. Mm-hmm. QVC, Robert is into a lot of outdoor sports and dynamic stuff that he's been a partner with. But I knew in the back of my head and in my heart that Mark was the shark that I wanted, right? Just because of the sports world connections.
And he's got the team.
He's still part of the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's built businesses. It doesn't come down to net worth. Any of those 5 sharks and Damon and any one of those guest sharks that they come on, they're uber successful business people, whether they're worth millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or billions in Mark's case. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
You don't become a billionaire by accident, Tom.
No. So now everyone was out.
Yep. Everybody was out.
And then there's Mark.
I was so nervous at this point, Tom, but I looked over at Mark and he was scraping his neck. We have another tool. We don't just make soap. We have a polycarbonate tool. It's called SORtool Pro.
Okay.
It's for when you're not in the shower. You could use it in the shower, but it's primarily you can keep it in your running shorts. You can keep it in your gym bag. Mm-hmm. You can bring it anywhere, in the car, in the office. Right. So I look over and I see Mark scraping his neck with this tool. And I thought to myself, we got a chance. There's still a little glimmer of hope, right? The candle's not extinguished totally. And sure enough, he said,
he was in.
I'll make you a deal. My neck feels great. The world stopped there for a second.
So now he ended up wanting double what you guys were in the offer for, correct?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would, double the equity.
Yes.
For the same valuation.
Yes.
So he, in essence, he
cut the
valuation in half. You know what? I didn't care.
No.
Didn't matter.
I
didn't care about the numbers. I didn't go in there thinking this company's worth X. I thought to myself, this company could be worth 10X or 100X if we got
have the
somebody.
right partner.
Yeah. It didn't matter.
You know what, though? That's a very smart way to think about it because you could have 100% of a small number, or you could have
whatever
less percent of a huge
exactly.
number. And long term, that's
I always think in terms of potential, right? Possibility. Like you said, I've heard this saying: I'd rather have a small amount of a watermelon than the whole acorn, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking like that. I just thought, look, if Mark Cuban's part of this team, I don't care what number you put on it, the sky's the limit now.
And the value went up the day that he said yes.
Of course it did.
So like even if he took a bigger portion of what you were thinking about when you went in there, on the backside of that is the value went instantly up by having him on the team.
Again, and I wasn't thinking about those. I wasn't thinking about those concepts or those numbers or those abstracts. I'm just like, holy moly, we got a deal with Mark Cuban, right? Yep. So Dan and I looked at each other. If you watch the show, I whispered to him. We countered.
Yeah.
You want to counter, right? It's a TV show.
Yeah.
We want to create interest. We wanted to counter, but we also wanted to see if we get a better deal from Mark Cuban, right? Didn't matter. When he said no, I'm standing firm on 20%. I said to him, I whispered in his ear, I said, "We're taking the deal." He goes, "Yeah, of course we're taking the deal." So I turned around and I got to say something that I had been dreaming of for 5 years, or maybe for even longer, before we even started this. As an entrepreneur, you think, wow, what if I could be on Shark Tank one day? And I was able to say, "Mark, you got a deal."
Yep.
It was awesome.
That is awesome.
It was awesome. I mean, aside from the birth of my 3 children and the day I married my wife, that has to be one of the most amazing moments of my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
And now, so you've been partners for 3 months now, right?
A little longer than that. So since April of 2024.
Okay.
So what is it? It's August.
Yep.
So yeah.
So how's that been going?
It's great. I mean, to have, first of all, we want to keep talking about mind-boggling things, right? The first time I sent an email to Mark Cuban, I said to my wife, I said, "This feels weird, right?" Send an email, read it about 10 times to make sure there's no typos, right? No misspellings. And I hit send.
And then he replied.
8 minutes later, the guy replied. The guy, my partner, Mark Cuban. Then it started to feel real there. Like, he cares about his businesses. This is not just a portfolio that he wants to expand. He's part of what we're doing now. He wants to make this a success. Obviously, he wants to make money. He doesn't invest in things to lose money, but he cares about us. He cares about being part of the team. He wants to grow this. That's the most exciting thing. So we're just standing on the edge of what potential we have.
Has he been to Brick yet?
No, not yet. I'll let you know when he's coming.
Let me know. We'll get him down to the podcast studio.
We could try. We could sure try.
So that's so cool, though.
That's really cool.
And that he's so interested and he wants to help you grow. So now you're probably going to start thinking about numbers a little more closely, and it's going to become part of your daily regimen.
Yeah, it has become part of the daily regimen. I've taken a crash course in business. Like I said before, joking around, I don't have an MBA, but I feel like I'm earning one. I feel like I'm learning a lot about inventory and numbers, and it's still just Dr. Dan and I and Mark, right?
Yep.
But from an operational standpoint, I've been running this company with Dan day to day. I still ship orders out of my dining room, right? So we're in the process of onboarding a 3PL, which is great, but it means that I have to let go of something. Now, I know in order to grow, we need to let go of certain things, but I like writing a handwritten note to somebody when they buy our product. I like closing the box and sticking the Post-it note on the back of the box. I like knowing that I've done everything I can to make sure that they're going to have the best experience that they can.
Sure.
Right? At the end of the day, the product works. But when you get a note from the founder and it says, "Hey, welcome to SOR. Any questions, feel free to email me. Here's a tip, here's a trick," or whatever, signed David. I like that.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's another part of that what gives me the grit, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that I have a hand in the success or failure of every one of these. I joke around in a lot of the social media. I say we're changing the recovery world one shower at a time, but maybe we are, right? Mm-hmm. We have, with thousands and thousands of people. But every time, you know what? Mark gave me some great advice. He told me 2 things after we struck the deal. I thought we were going to go after professional basketball players, right, and get this in the hands of, this guy and that guy. Nope. And I was, at first I was like, all right, well, what are we going to do?
Taking back, you're like, I just gave up 20%, and then I'm not getting the basketball player.
Where's the big bang, right? Where's the big bang for the buck? He said to me, without batting an eyelash, continue to do what you're doing. Continue to build community one customer at a time. Keep writing the notes.
Definitely.
Grow the base. Grow the community. And I said, yeah, I can do that, right? I can do that. And it took a little bit of a shift in my mind, but now every email we get with a question, right, or an issue, it's an opportunity to make a lifetime customer. Solve that issue for that one person, turn them into a lifetime customer. Mm-hmm. They tell 10 of their friends. Yeah. Now you got 11 customers, right? It's harder than making the big splash with, that one big player in the Mavs jersey, but it's more rewarding.
Yep. And it's a brand, it's a loyal group of people that are going to continue to use your product for.
And it's organic. We throw these terms around a lot, right? Organic versus paid or this. But truly, growing a business organically creates an infrastructure and a bedrock that you can build anything you want on that foundation. Mm-hmm. If I've got 100,000 organic customers who love the brand, who love the product, and have word of mouth, help me grow it, I'll take that over that artificial growth any day.
I love it.
We'll get there.
So let's everybody see this. It is SORsoap, and you could check it out at SORsoap.com. And it's very creative how they did the logo with the on the SOR with the RX like medical. So that was very.
Thanks,
that
Tom.
was your branding.
That was part of my the years and years of being an artist and a designer.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up today, this was a great conversation. I'm so glad that Chris connected us. I'm so glad you're able to come down to Belmar and that you have a liking of Belmar.
I love Belmar.
Love
the
area. You know, Belmar's a great town. I can't say anything but good things about Belmar because we've only been in Belmar a year. We've been in Manasquan, for longer of our tenure, but this year in Belmar has been a great year.
Well, I've got connections in Manasquan and Belmar. I went to high school at St. Rose. I've had a career as a coach there for the soccer team. So Belmar holds a special place in my heart, and that's why we chose purple for the soap too.
Oh, really?
Part of it, yeah, because purple is the color of St. Rose. St. Rose purple roses. I always have an affinity for purple.
I love it.
Yep.
Too bad it wasn't a red fox. Let people know where they could find you.
You could find all about us and our products at SORsoap.com. That's SORsoap.com.
Excellent. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for
Thanks,
this
Tom.
was great.
This was great.
Thank you.